Managing a small team or business comes with a unique set of challenges. With limited resources and manpower, it's easy for things to feel chaotic and out of your control. How can you, as a leader, accomplish your goals while keeping your team engaged, effective, and accountable? This podcast will give you practical strategies you can implement now to lead your team or business to reach its fullest potential. Welcome to the Organizing Chaos podcast with your host, Danny Coleman.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Organizing Chaos, where we talk about small practical strategies for small teams and small businesses. So I want to continue my series that I've been doing about my process. So I took a break for a little while in between step 2 and 3. If you haven't heard, 1, 2, and 3, go ahead and check those out. However, we're now on to step 4. And so just to kind of quickly recap on what we talked about in the first few steps, the first step is all about mindset. If you're not clear on where the business is supposed to take you, the business will take you wherever it wants to take you. And so we get clear on your mindset, so that way you get clear on what your business is supposed to do for you. After that, we move on to what should you no longer be doing and what should you continue to do. We clarify those two different things because as an owner, you are still serving your business. Most of the time, this is still the case. You're serving your business as an employee in an employee capacity right now. So, for instance, what that means is if you were no longer there would be a role that would need to be filled in your business. So we clarify what it is you're going to continue to do as an employee within your business. All right, which is different from being just simply the owner. If you're the owner, then it doesn't have anything to do with what you do as an employee in the organization of the business. So once we clarify what you continue to do and what you'll be stopped doing, okay, so step 2, we created a stop doing list. The stop doing list, and then in step 3 is where we clarify and we offload those things. So we clarify, okay, so I was doing this, or I have been doing this. Traditionally, I'm the one responsible for this, and I don't want to do those things anymore. So here's who needs to get them. If you already have a team already, we clarify, what are the people doing? Those people who are already on your team, what are their positions? What are the hats that they're wearing? We use position agreements to clarify what those different responsibilities that they have look like, the different roles that they serve, the different hats that they're wearing, and then the results that they're supposed to be creating as they serve your company in those positions. So we've now kind of cleared things up a little bit, right? So we've cleaned things up. We figured out who's doing what. Not necessarily who's doing what at this point, but we've at least clarified what positions need to exist in your business for your business to deliver on the promises that you make. So how is this, what does this machine look like? How is it, where are the labels? How are people talking to each other? Things like that. We've gotten all that cleared up. So now it's time to hang those position agreements on a frame, which is an organization chart. And we're going to now have more clarity around the individual people who will be holding those roles. So this is where it kind of gets very unique for small business because you have a limited number of people. Your ability to hire is also limited. You're dealing with less resources than maybe a larger business is going to be dealing with, especially if you're coming from chaos and kind of trying to get more organized. Your books might be might be wacky. You might not really know what you can pay people and whatnot. You might not have a very clear grip on your financials and things of that nature. So, as we don't want that to hold us up from it's kind of like a catch-22. If we let those things hold us up from ever getting efficient and optimizing, then we'll never get the other stuff done, right? You'll never take the time and give the focus to the financials like you might need to. So it's careful. You want to be careful not to get yourself into catch-22 here. It's better to just take action. If you want to change what things have looked like for you in the past, it's better to take action than to do nothing at all, or to, even worse, to continue to do the same thing that you have been doing and expect a different result. So on to step 4, what we do now is we're going to get feedback from your team, and then we're going to roll out this new structure, and essentially anyone who's currently on your team, we're going to rehire them, quote unquote, into their new roles, right? So we're going to ask them, hey, we've cleaned things up a little bit. You've sort of been doing some of this, and you've sort of been doing some of that, but we want to clean this up because we want you to be responsible for X, we want you to be responsible for Y, and responsible for Z. What do you think about that? Do you think this is a good fit, et cetera, et cetera? So that's what the feedback portion of this looks like. You want to be able to show everyone, hey guys, this is what I've been working on. This is what I think would maybe clean things up for the business, clarify positions. It would give me more time to do the things that only I can do, and it'll give you guys more responsibilities. Some of you guys might be getting a pay raise, et cetera, et cetera. So you're kind of getting feedback from them on all this work that you've been doing, because the worst thing you can do is to do all this work and say, hey guys, here's what I figured out. Here's what I want everything to look like now. That is the worst possible way you could ever roll things out to your business. You want to be involving people, your staff, the staff that's already on your team. You want to be involving them in the decision-making process, in this planning process that you've got. Now, again, it is easier to get to bring a plan to them than to like start from scratch with them on this. So I do recommend you do steps 1, 2, and 3, more or less on your own. Maybe involve your number 2 if you've got one. And then present it to the team, like I said, here in step 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to show everyone, hey, here's what we've been working on. What do you guys think about this? Do you guys have any ideas, anything that I've missed and whatnot? And you're going to hear a lot. People are going to tell you, like, you know what, like you have this position here, but I really think that could probably just be combined with this position over here. Those are 2 really similar things. They might be like, hey, you're out of your mind. That's no single person could ever be responsible for this much. That takes 8 hours a day, and this takes 8. You know what I mean? They're all just going to give you different types of opinions and feedback because they're the people who have been in the trenches all this time. So you want to make sure that you give them this time to give you feedback. I suggest at least scheduling 1 or 2 meetings. If your team is too large, then go ahead and just do it with I would just suggest your managers or the people who you kind of see as your management. And again, you'll clarify who's management and who's not once we kind of get this in place. So that's really what all this part is about. It's just about getting feedback, taking the time to listen to your teammates and hear what it is that they have to say and incorporating that and making the final tweaks that you need to make. And then hopefully you end up with something that looks like this. So I'll just kind of run through this example here. This is a fictional business, but it's very typical for a lot of the businesses that I work with to kind of look like this. So one of the things that I want to highlight on this organization chart here, and you might not be able to see it all this well if you're watching the YouTube version, I have a couple different positions that are like outlined in green, in which this represents contract positions. So a big way, or a way that I believe a lot of small businesses are not taking advantage of, is using regular contractors as members of their team that can fit with the scale of the business or the scale of the needs, or kind of a pay-as-you-go type way of getting work done. So for instance, what I have here are commonly freelance or outsourced positions, like a designer, like a website designer, or a social media expert, or your bookkeeper perhaps. And so you want to actually put these types of people, if you have any type of regular work with them, you want to put them on your org chart, not for them so much as for the responsible people on your team who's going to be managing them. So what I've got here set up, I'll start from the top down, is the CEO. This is typically you, the business owner, or if you're, or it's the business owner. The COO you're usually your number 2 person, right? It's the person who you lean on and rely on a lot to get stuff done around the business. And again, you might not have this person on your team already. But I found that more often than not, this person is on a team already, but they've just not been properly empowered to be truly the number 2, or the second in command, or the general manager, or the COO, Chief Operations Officer. So, and again, these titles are completely interchangeable. It's your business. You name it whatever you want. I know one guy who has CEO, like yo, cool. I have another friend who's World Chief Visionary Officer, is what we used to call the organization that I was at before. So, I mean, you call it whatever you want, but hopefully you understand what I'm getting at when I'm using these terms in terms of this chart. So we've got the CEO, the COO, and then you've got this level right here. I call this your leadership team. These are the people who you're interacting with the most to get stuff done. This is the people who you trust the most to get results through other people. Now, they may be doing some work themselves still, and that's very likely if you're a small business. But in a lot of cases, they're managing either third-party relationships, right, contractors that you work with who aren't actually part of your business, 1099s, or they're managing people who are in your business, right? The people who are your technician types, the people who are out in the field getting the work done, or the people who are, pulling shots at your, espresso bar, or, the people who are running stuff around at your bowling alley, et cetera, et cetera. So this is right here. This is what I call the leadership team. So this is right under you and the COO. Now, let's say you don't have a COO. Maybe you don't have a number two. Maybe you're still the person managing everyone else. Well, just imagine this org chart without this second bubble here. Ideally, this is what you want to have. You want to have someone, CEO, you typically, who is leading in a strategy, vision type way, focusing more on the unrealistic things, the things you haven't done yet as a business. And you got the COO. This is your integrator. This is the person who runs the day-to-day operations of your team, typically likes interacting with people more. And you can see here the way that this org chart is too, this also saves you from millions of phone calls or texts and other different questions. This person right here, once you can get them in place, this is who blocks for you. I used to getting this person in place ASAP. I've now found out through a lot of experience that you do that if you can, but if not, it's better to have an organization chart without this middle person, your COO, your general manager. It's better to have an organization chart without them than to try to, put everything on hold until you can get one. So that's just kind of an aside, a bonus tip or whatever. But this is really this is the ideal thing is what I've drawn up here. This is ideally what you want to have because this allows you to stay in the vision strategy zone of your business, and this allows them to run the day-to-day operations of your business, interacting with all these people a lot more, giving you more time to do what it is you are best at. So yeah, so you can see here, each of these different circles that I've got representing a different person on your team, some of them have two different titles. This goes back to what I talked about last week, which are the position agreements. In a small business, you're going to have multiple people, or you're going to have one person wearing multiple hats. At least someone in your business, if not everyone in your business, is going to be wearing multiple hats. So I had a couple examples here. Like for instance, this guy out here on the edge is both the sales manager and the marketing manager. He has two different results that he's responsible for getting done. Now, let's say the business scales to a point where the marketing manager work takes up too much time, but they're a really great sales manager and we don't want to lose them in that role. Well, you spin off the marketing manager role and you just extend that line out a little further, and there's your marketing manager, right? They'll do all the things that had been getting done by this person who was wearing both hats. Now you've just given one of those hats to a new person. And it also makes it easy to change it around in your business, cross-train people. Be able to, if someone gets sick or whatever, like there's a substitute, you're able to just kind of pass that hat off. This is most of the small businesses that I work with, everyone's got to wear multiple hats. Here's your operations manager, right? Now this guy only gets to wear one hat, lucky him. But he's responsible for managing these field technicians down here, right? So he has other responsibilities that might crowd out his ability to wear more than one hat. You got someone else here, right? They have three hats: warehouse manager, trainer, and safety manager, right? So they're wearing multiple hats here. And again, the way that these groupings work is really like how closely do these different positions relate to each other. So in my fictional business here, I've got sales and marketing under with one person because typically someone who is a good salesperson is also a little bit more apt to be interested in marketing, right? It's all about communication of your product. So that's something that makes sense versus if I put sales manager and warehouse manager together, typically not the best fit. But again, this is something that only you can figure out in your business. And this is what I do with my clients is I try to understand myself. What are these different roles responsible for? And then try to make logical groupings so that way if someone's wearing multiple hats, they're wearing three hats or two hats or whatever that relate to each other. That way they're not kind of switching from one gear to a completely different gear. And also this plays into the whole idea of everyone's got natural talents that they're predisposed for. So you don't want to ask someone, if someone's a great sales manager, they're probably not a great office manager. That's just typically the case. Admin and sales are like opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to people. If you're great at sales, you like to go out there, get things done with people, have conversations, get to know people. You typically don't like to come home and fill out a whole bunch of forms, about like what your conversation was like with that person and whatnot. So sales and admin, typically I kind of, I try to separate, that's the kind of the predominant way I look at positions when I'm kind of dividing them up into ways that make the most sense. Is this someone who leans more towards quick start, being quick to go, fast, wants to move quickly, it gets bogged down in the details, gets bored with the details quickly? And the opposite side of that is admin. Admin's usually slower, but they're much more thorough, and they're fine with doing repetitive tasks or, managing forms and paperwork and things like that. So it's a rudimentary way of dividing responsibilities, but there's a lot behind it that you can look up to see this is just the way that people are naturally predisposed to getting work done. So again, another aside or a small tangent in there, but that's what we've got going on here. So the reason that I got these different hats spread across the different people is because we have to make it fit with your payroll. But we don't want to say no organization chart simply because you can't afford, what you imagine the organization looking like. So hopefully that makes sense. Is we just don't want to not take steps to improve simply because we're afraid of the increase in cost. Maybe you're asking this person to wear 3 hats and you feel guilty about asking them to wear 3 hats and giving them no pay raise. That is fine. It's on them to tell you that, like, hey, I'm overloaded right now. And again, this is where I don't want to get off on another tangent again, but this is where it comes back to good management, where you're asking questions regularly, having meetings regularly with your teammates, so that way hey, are you feeling overloaded? Are you not getting all the work that you need to get done completed? And then that's where they can give you feedback and you'd be like, hey, what if I give you a raise and, or make you salaried or something like that? Then you can have those conversations. But you have to take the step first to get responsibilities divvied up properly. And then we can worry about, giving people raises and whatnot. Because as long as you're not increasing their workload, again, I'm kind of using a standard 40 hours here. As long as you're not increasing their workload, you don't really need to worry about giving them a pay raise until they've proven that this is what they want to do for you. And this is what they enjoy doing. And again, those conversations come later. So don't feel bad about giving people multiple hats so long as you're still sticking with the same type of time commitment that they should have normally. Again, I use 40 hours a week as a pretty basic thing, but whatever, wherever their workload has been at, as long as you're not increasing them too much, then don't worry about changing their pay. I guess if you're hourly, then it doesn't matter because they're getting paid by the hour. So that's a different discussion, and I don't want to tap into it too much, but hopefully you understand the point here is that what we've done is we've taken essentially what it is you weren't doing, the stuff that you didn't want to do, as well as the stuff that you probably weren't doing that should have been getting done, and we've identified those responsibilities and properly allocated them throughout the new organization chart that you have. And you have people who are responsible for managing the third-party relationships that your company needs to have. And again, all of this is an effort to bring all of the delivery work, the work that you have to do to get things done in your business, to move it away from you and shift the responsibility of that onto your team. And again, this allows you to live in the space where then not only should be less stressed and have more time on your hands, but you should be able to then live in the strategy, vision part of your business, which allows you to innovate and grow and scale the business in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're just actually piling more work onto yourself. I think the thing I hear most often about why people haven't hired more or why they haven't delegated or why they maybe not improved certain things about their business is because they feel like they're maxed out, and they probably already are. But the reason that they're maxed out is because they've not properly delegated. So again, it's a snake eating its tail. You have to properly delegate and get things off of your plate. So that way you can understand, hey, can I grow the business? Should I grow the business? Because the reason that you usually aren't growing the business is because all you see that as is more work for yourself. And it is going to be more work for yourself until you're able to transfer that work to your team. So hopefully this step made sense. And you were able to kind of follow, even if you listen to the audio version, it might have been a little difficult because I was using an organization chart here on my board. But I hopefully came across to you guys in the way that you needed to. And if you have any questions, I want you to know that I'm here for that. This process for me is ever evolving. This is where it's kind of been for the last year or so, but I'd be happy to hear some feedback, or your questions are going to help inform me make this even better. So shoot me an email, danny@dannycoleman.me. Again, if you'd like a copy of this process or you'd like to ask me some questions, I'd be happy to hear them. If you want to hear a topic hashed out on the podcast, I'd be happy to do that as well. Shoot me an email, again, same email address. And then if you are interested in sharing your message with a small business audience, I'd love to interview you either virtually, or if you live in my local area, we can meet up. Or you can come here to my lovely little office. So again, shoot me an email, danny@dannycoleman.me. Next week, we're going to continue this series, and then I've got some more interviews lined up. So I'm really excited. Hope you guys are having an awesome end of your year. Finish it out strong. You follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, @IamDannyColeman, and hope you guys are doing great, and I will see you all later. Thanks.
Want more? Go to DannyColeman.me to download Danny's free small business hiring guide, which includes tips, templates, and tools, plus a step-by-step process you can use to find and keep high-quality employees for your small team or business.